Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Let's go and check out 20 WWE wrestler bodies dramatically changed after using steroids. Remember when they were saying nobody's using steroids? Well, guess what? Almost everyone used it, especially back in the day. I don't know about today, but like especially back in the day, everybody.
1, 2, is this on?
Back in the day, WWE was a hub for muscular, boosted up physiques where wrestlers were more likely to get a push if they were completely jacked.
I was a little bit out of shape when I went back,
of McMahon.
and guys were ribbing me and everything, and you best believe I got home, and yeah, I was pounding stuff.
But maintaining such an enhanced look for an entire career just isn't possible.
Vince McMahon is probably thinking, do I want a diminished, thinner Hulk Hogan as my centerpiece, advertising to my audience how important steroids were to his look? So Vince McMahon had to shift his focus to smaller wrestlers who were more athletic.
Instead of we love Hulk Hogan or Hulk, may you live forever, it's just sign up and said, hey, did you take your shot today?
There have been countless wrestlers whose bodies have changed when on and off cycle.
I realized that my size would work in my benefit.
And today we're highlighting them by showcasing 20 WWE wrestlers whose bodies were physically altered thanks to performance enhancers.
Bug-free sports entertainment that you and your entire family can be proud of.
I took steroids. I'm not anymore.
By looking at his first and second WWE run, we can see how Brock Lesnar's body changed considerably. Between leaving and coming back, Lesnar had to alter his physique to one that was more conducive for fighting in UFC.
Do you realize now what position you're in, Brock?
Look at the shape Brock Lesnar's in.
Fans speculated if Lesnar was ever on anything, but he was vehement in denying how he's never failed a test.
You're just so big, and you come out of the world of pro wrestling.
We're done. Thanks, guys. I have never failed a drug test.
That was until 2016, when Brock was found with a banned substance in his system after returning to fight in the UFC. Lesnar used an anti-estrogen agent that raises natural testosterone levels in the body, while counteracting the side effects of anabolic use. This resulted in a 1-year suspension from the sport, though Brock never fought again outside of his sole return bout. Triple H was at his absolute biggest after returning from injury at the start of 2002. The game came back utterly gigantic. While there's no actual proof or admission Hunter was ever on gear, you don't even have to surmise that he was, based on how he looked in 02.
Look at this!
And he's here to win a Royal Rumble!
Just look at his physique 2 years later, when he was trying to have kids with wife Stephanie McMahon.
Oh yeah, apparently you cannot be on steroids if you want to have kids. You literally can't, you have to be off them.
Certainly has told anyone that would listen, including a nationwide audience, that he should be the challenger tonight.
Given how dedicated Triple H has been to the gym his entire career, there's no way he would just all of a sudden stop training. His bloated look in 04 and 05 is a telltale sign of someone who would come off the gas. While Triple H may not have ever confessed to taking PEDs, he has tried to incriminate someone else for being on them. A much lighter Chris Masters had just returned in 2006.
Weighing in at 275 pounds, weighing in at 260 pounds.
And one of the first people to greet him was the cerebral assassin.
You know, as a matter of fact, I was thinking about writing a book on nutrition. What are you going to call it? How to lose 50 pounds in 4 weeks?
Well, you know, you take off your shirt and stand next to me and still see who looks better. Because, like, you know, he wasn't exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer even at the point. I mean, he was a little punchy, so.
Masters has said during his time off, he had to overcome a painkiller addiction, which is the reason for his rapid weight loss. Chris has spoken about this in interviews, including one with Chris Van Vliet.
Like, that wasn't the issue. Like, and it's not to say I never used anything or anything like that, but my issue at that point was I had deeply gotten addicted to opiates.
We were off everything.
Maven Huffman has been completely transparent on his YouTube page when it comes to taking PEDs. He got on them after being prompted to do so in a roundabout way by one of the higher-ups, rumored by fans to be John Laurinaitis.
One of the top officials come up to me, and he didn't outright say, hey, we're going to need you to get on this. What he told me was, have you thought about talking to some of the boys about that creatine that they're on? I asked around, said, am I hearing what I think I'm hearing? They informed me, yes, you are. I still remember getting called into the office and pulling up a piece of paper and going, Maven, you popped positive on Winstrol, Deca, a little bit of marijuana, and some painkillers. Don't let it become a habit. And out the door I went. My second promo shot. I'm not getting those results without these performance enhancers.
Maven felt he had to be enhanced, otherwise he wouldn't look believable against bigger opponents. And it's no surprise that the biggest push of his career came during the period he looked most shredded.
In the classic Survivor Series.
It is so sad because you know it is necessary for your job, you know, for your success, but the thing that they have to put into their own bodies and then to lie blatantly to the fans, to the people who believe that they can get those physiques without these enhancements, you know, making them depressed, making them question themselves, making them have some type of disorder, you know, whether it is ET or something else. Like, this is problematic, definitely.
Elimination 8-man tag team match. Number of impact to meet the best in the business. Raven, wait a minute.
During his run in WWE, Maven has said that up to 90% of the roster were on the gas. The Rock was Maven's favorite wrestler and someone who helped pay the former Tough Enough winner's road expenses during his first year in the business. The Great One said he took anabolics for a brief period during his football career. However, fans certainly took notice of how enormous The Rock started to become in 2010, after years of slimming down after transitioning to Hollywood full-time.
It was, now let's not go to the gym as much. Let's lean down, slim down, so you can be like everybody else. Yeah. I realized that
the guy's like, you're full of shit. You're full of lies. Like, the gym alone can't do that, brother. The gym alone can't do this.
My size would work in my benefit once I decided to embrace who I was.
Rock even went on to remove his gynecomastia with the help of surgery, which Cena couldn't wait to point out during their feud.
You won't be making no more movies. You're gonna need surgery on your face just like you had it on your boobies.
It's all speculation as to whether he's natural, since the People's Champ has denied being on anything, although experts disagree.
I see him jacked up on steroids because I know when someone's on steroids because superstar Billy Graham is taking steroids.
Nevertheless, the Brahma Bull has maintained his beefy, jacked up appearance, looking more cut than ever during his WrestleMania 41 showdown in Philadelphia.
Rock and Roman teaming together for the very first time in their careers. Understand, a win for them means that bloodline rules.
One of The Rock's dream opponents who he never got to wrestle is Rey Mysterio, standing at no more than 5'3". Mysterio wowed audiences in the 90s. In WCW, his highest weight was probably around 155 pounds.
And how about that new and improved physique on Rey Mysterio Jr.? Obviously, there was no slacking off during his rehab.
He's come back from serious knee surgery.
In WWE, Rey ballooned to about 175 pounds.
We are gonna put it down in Phoenix, Arizona.
Not to mention the injuries. The added weight altered his style compared to his WCW days. Meanwhile, the heavier frame likely contributed to the knee problems he endured, given all the extra weight he was now carrying.
Rey's knee is far from normal.
Superstar Billy Graham,
especially with the way, like, he is a high flyer, he does all of these maneuvers, all of these moves. He needs to be less weight. The more weight you have, the harder you can do these moves.
was a pioneer for steroid use in the wrestling business.
Oh yeah, I was a pioneer, and it was, of course, legal.
He was also one of the most emulated wrestlers ever, but from a physique standpoint, he set the standard for others to follow. At his peak, Superstar was as big as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Graham's appearance radically changed after returning to the WWF in the 80s. He was much leaner and wasn't nearly as successful as before. Graham has been an open book when it comes to his gear use.
He says the steroids have completely destroyed the bones in his right leg and also made him sterile.
They ruined my wrestling career.
Can do that?
They totally made me a cripple for the rest of my life. I'll never be a normal man again.
I had been taking steroids for 5 years before I started wrestling in the mid-60s.
He continued to give wrestlers warnings and advice regarding the topic up until he passed. Superstar lived until he was 79, but the last 20 plus years of his life were riddled with health issues. No one copied Billy Graham more than Hulk Hogan, especially when it came to look and presentation. Hogan also has a long history of using performance enhancers, but don't take my word for it.
I injected Hogan with steroids many times.
Many times?
Many times.
A dozen?
Hundreds of times.
Hundreds.
I myself personally have injected Hulk Hogan with anabolic steroids.
Oh, he told me he'd been taking steroids for 1 full year at the time I met him. I believe his surgeries and all of his operations are linked to the steroid use.
Hulk was noticeably slimmer.
I was so naive before, thinking that they can get all of this in the gym, working hard with good nutrition and good trainers and stuff like that. But the more I got into WWE and the more I got into this world, I learned a thing or two.
Getting off the gas, particularly in 1993 and 94, towards the end of his WWF run and start of his time in WCW, which was unsurprising given this was the period coming off the infamous steroid trial, where we saw many physiques change as a result of the crackdown on roid use after Vince McMahon was indicted by the United States government.
Hogan is granted immunity for anything he would reveal on the stand about how he got his steroids from Dr. Zahorian while working for McMahon.
Vince didn't go to jail for 17 years because of great. Instead of we love Hulk Hogan or Hulk, may you live forever, I see a sign up that said, hey, did you take your shot today?
Vince McMahon is probably thinking, do I want a diminished, thinner Hulk Hogan as my centerpiece, advertising to my audience how important steroids were to his look? So Vince McMahon had to shift his focus to smaller wrestlers who were more athletic.
Speaking of Vince McMahon, during the trial he was confirmed to be a roid user in the years leading up to the case.
Prosecutors say McMahon, who admits being a former steroids user himself, is a corporate drug pusher.
It wasn't illegal to buy steroids from a physician. I bought some from him.
But if you look at his physique after he began wrestling at the end of the 90s, he certainly looked like someone that was still chemically enhanced. Vince usually wrestled in a shirt. The reason for this was probably because he displayed signs of gynecomastia in his pectorals, which is an indication of anabolic use.
Oh, look at the bumpness! He wants to put the finishing touches on Stone Cold Steve Austin. Unbelievable shape for 60 years old, and a look like that is amazing.
In his later years, McMahon was still in shape despite looking incredibly old, all throughout his face and through the skin on his body.
McMahon gets it, so oh my God. Nobody's stopping him now. Oh my God. Caught up in this. Oh Jesus.
After overcoming the US government in court, one of the next big moments where Vince was under fire over steroid use in WWE was during the Benoit family tragedy in 2007. Benoit's usage lasted for pretty much his entire career and was said to have contributed in some form to the decline of his mental state.
My understanding is that Chris Benoit was using steroids from when he was in high school.
Benoit's doctors was prescribing a 10-month supply of anabolic steroids to the wrestler every 3 to 4 weeks.
There's no correlation between
10-month supply in 4 weeks.
taking steroids and what happened to Chris Benoit. Human beings are flawed.
Yeah, this mental meltdown that he had, massacring the innocent, that was far beyond steroids or any kind of a chemical.
But if we go back, we can see how much more enhanced Chris became as the years went on, which peaked when he went to WWE, the so-called land of the giants. Benoit believed if he wanted to receive a sustained push and reach to the top of the industry, then performance enhancers were the only way.
And my words to Chris at that time were, Chris, you're a very accomplished wrestler. You have the ability to go in and wrestle. Why are you doing these things? And his response to me at the time was, Dad, if I want a job, I have to.
Benoit's best friend Eddie Guerrero experienced the exact same challenges as Chris, resulting in prolonged usage of anabolics that ultimately contributed to Eddie's demise in the form of an enlarged heart. Like Benoit, you can see Guerrero's body change as he begins to be featured more and more on television.
The match thrown out, trying to get disqualified. Make no mistake about it, and without a doubt, you said Rey Mysterio Jr. A little frog splash on the Intercontinental Champion.
1, 2, 3, you Intercontinental Champion, Latino Heat. But don't interrupt me when I'm talking, Esa.
The opportunity somewhere down the road.
Shut up!
I didn't think I was going to win this match. I didn't think I had a shot. Yeah, the way it seemed, it looked like Eddie Guerrero had a power bomb in mind, then arm dragged out of it to Mysterio.
Because I kept a lot of my personal issues very quiet.
At Eddie's funeral in 2005, his brother Mondo apologized to Vince McMahon for any bad publicity the WWE received from Eddie's passing. This is crazy when you consider that Guerrero gave his life to wrestling, trying to meet the demands of what McMahon believes a top talent should look like. Vince, on the other hand, takes no blame for the tragedies, such as that of Guerrero and Benoit. Comments the then chairman made in 2003 still reflect his thoughts to this day.
I would accept no responsibility whatsoever for their untimely deaths.
I mean, they wrestled for you. They were part of your organization. They worked a couple of hundred nights a year for you. They lived this lifestyle.
Oh my God, you can't
believe. Okay, like, I do understand that they think he should be in some way, like, I understand McMahon here. Like, I want to be on his side more because he didn't make them. He didn't force them. He did imply they can be better, get a promotion, get a better life if they did these things and if they come at the end looking a certain way, and it was on them to do it. So they realized if they want the fame, if they want the success, they have to do it. So I don't really put it on him. But the whole idea of having to look a certain way to succeed is baffling because, look, you could have succeeded without it, without looking like that. It was, wrestling was and is more than the way you look. Even today, you have wrestlers that don't look don't fit this certain look, and they are so talented doing what they're doing.
Wayne, you're giving me the old sympathetic
No, I'm not.
stuff?
I'm honestly curious.
Because I told you, these individuals worked for our organization at one time. They also worked for other organizations. I'm not responsible for the way the business was then.
Benoit's idol growing up was the Dynamite Kid, someone who, like Chris, helped break down barriers when it came to smaller wrestlers getting featured spots on the card. But in an even similar vein to Benoit, the Dynamite Kid had to get heavily juiced up to look believable against bigger opponents.
The bigger he got, the more fame he gained, the more in demand he was.
Dynamite also had a foul end to his life. He was awful to his family and was wheelchair bound with a myriad of injuries and health problems.
He was the gentleman that kicked out his wife and 3-week-old baby.
And do you blame it all on the steroids?
Yes.
Lost the use of his legs. A pin sticks out from one of his toes. He readily admits wrestling did this to him.
Good match. The majority matches were good.
His final matches took place in the mid-90s, where he was much smaller, looking completely unrecognizable.
Tom returns to Japan for a comeback match.
The comeback match was real sad.
Dynamite Kid famously partnered with Davey Boy Smith to form the British Bulldogs. Davey Boy maintained a jacked up appearance for most of his career, which came at a cost, leading to his firing from the WWF in 1992.
Vince said, I just wanted to let you know first that we're probably going to have to let Davey go. He was getting growth hormone through some dealer in England.
Smith became addicted to morphine after an injury suffered in WCW. Then during his final run in WWF in 1999, the Bulldog looked very unwell. He was heavily medicated and hooked on painkillers due to past injuries. This meant he was essentially a ticking time bomb.
So when he came back, he was no longer on any enhancement drugs.
I had him in rehab, then Vince McMahon put him in rehab, then the police put him in rehab.
His heart ultimately succumbed to this cocktail of medication, which included roids, as he passed away in 2002. In 2006, Test debuted on the revived ECW brand. He was a lot more jacked up compared to his previous run, but not in a good way. Test had a visibly distended belly, a clear sign of roid use.
Booker T follows the mount. Oh my God!
What's that?
Well, he lost his mullet. What? A nice haircut.
Guy you think he likes, but his ribs are killing him
Oh my
from
God,
the
what is
Extreme
that
Elimination
from?
Chamber.
It was substance abuse that led to not only Test's departure for a second time, but ultimately his premature demise as well. In a chilling final interview 17 months before his passing, Test looked to have turned the corner in his life after getting sober.
Just turned 32 years old and went to 8 funerals this year. I mean, I shouldn't be going to funerals at 32 years old. It opened my eyes. It made me take my foot out of the grave and step back and say, what am I doing? Do I want to join that club? Hell no, I don't want to join that club. So either you clean up and straighten up, or you lay down beside. I took back, straightened up, and I feel great.
However, Test would once again struggle with substance abuse through 2008 and 2009, and as a
after that
result, he passed away in March of 2009. In 2003, Test tagged with Scott Steiner, who had recently debuted his gargantuan frame in WWE. If you didn't watch World Championship Wrestling, then the last time WWF fans saw Steiner was in 1994. He was still big back then, but nothing like the big Papa Pump persona he would later morph into in WCW.
And I'm the champ.
Big Papa Pump is your hookup. Holler if you hear me. And they called me the Daddy. That's the big bad booty daddy. I'm Big Papa Pump.
Scott Steiner.
Genetic freak. Big bad booty daddy.
My freaks call me Big Bad Booty Daddy.
As the Big Bad Booty Daddy, Scott had a freakish,
You think
almost
his nephew
grotesque-looking
Bum Breaker is
physique.
They're bigger than ever, JR.
Definitely looks like something.
Very impressive, King. You know it's not bodybuilding. And Scott Steiner dropping that big. Look at this little push-up. What Steiner is thinking? He's trying to get the referee to stop because of blood.
When it comes to the use of performance enhancers, Steiner has never admitted to taking juice, nor has he ever failed a test. There was one occasion where WWE asked him to take one, but Scott would only do so if Triple H took one with him.
We want you to take a drug test, man. It's like, that was basically my fuck you, but I'm like, yeah, tell that motherfucker to pick up a limousine and we'll go down together. Cause I know that motherfucker's hot, juices and gills, man. Fuck you.
Scott Steiner's lackey in WCW was Buff Bagwell, and like Freakzilla, Buff was one of the company's big body guys. And given his name, the physique was going to be Bagwell's main selling point.
If your life's your body and your name is Buff, pretty much you better come looking right. I should have been smart enough to call myself Fatty Cake.
Therefore, there was even more pressure on him to stay jacked year round. It's why instead of going on and off cycle, he stayed roided up 365 days a year. On his Marcus Buff Bagwell YouTube channel, Buff's been very open in terms of what stuff he was on back in the day. He began using in high school and continued all throughout his run on top.
You get on a low dose and you remain on year round. When it came time for testing, I had a guy that was clean that would pee for me in a cup. I exactly what I took, and it don't mean you're gonna look like me. You gotta put the work in. I have zero regrets from it. It didn't do anything to cause any problems in my life.
In 2002, Edge began to experience serious neck issues that forced him to miss over a year of action. When he came back, he maintained the good physique he had before.
He's a handsome man with a great physique, and he's a young man with the long hair.
But throughout the next year, the rated R superstar's body began to change. Edge has said he stopped weight training during this time due to his injuries. But in 2005, he admitted to taking juice in the past to help recover from his neck injury.
Have you ever juiced? I have, yeah. Why'd you stop? I didn't like the way I got to the point where I didn't feel comfortable in the ring. To me, I wanted to be able to just go. And I would get winded too quick and I didn't feel good.
In a similar vein to Edge, Kurt Angle didn't take anabolics to get all toned and shredded since he was also already in tremendous shape. Kurt did them to try and heal from injuries faster since he was in constant pain due to his neck issues.
I was doing DECA for my joints and I didn't find anything beneficial except I was a little more lean. You know, it did do a lot for me.
After returning from breaking his neck for a third time.
Like, it's so weird seeing him like skinny, but his veins so popping. Like, his veins became so big. I don't know if that's bad.
In 2004, Angle began to downsize as the years progressed, to the point where he got considerably smaller during his TNA run. Kurt then slimmed down even more for his role as a Russian MMA fighter in the 2011 film Warrior.
But I did. I lost 30 pounds. I got down to 190.
The injuries continued to pile up as Angle got older, with his arms beginning to atrophy.
I can't feel my pinky fingers. You know, I have a lot of atrophy in my arms. I don't have a lot of strength.
He was still in shape, but was able to walk around at lighter weight, since he wasn't in the ring anymore. One of Angle's most iconic opponents in TNA was Sting.
Wait a minute, Jared! Jared got to go!
The Stinger was older here, so he obviously didn't look the way he did during his heyday. Sting was enhanced during his early career as he transitioned from bodybuilding to wrestling, but as time went on he gradually shrunk down to a weight more suitable to the type of wrestler he became, especially once he went from the Surfer to the darker Crow character.
And look at the arms. Looking really good, Sting.
Sting's attire now covered his torso, and he didn't need to be super jacked anymore with beach muscles. Sting broke into wrestling with the Ultimate Warrior as his tag partner. The Warrior was a bodybuilder like Sting.
They were the prisoner of the image of the character.
They were going to be our new, younger,
Two roided out young men.
But unlike the Stinger, the Warrior maintained a much more roided physique for his entire wrestling career. This was in keeping with the Warrior's comic book persona as a crazed, otherworldly, energetic, alien-like menace.
That stopped in 1990 for me, so yeah. It didn't stop for him, but it stopped for me.
I think there's a certain level that athletes reach where they have to make a conscious decision as a mature adult whether they're going to play by the rules it will take to be the best in the world. I saw it as a sacrifice I was willing to make in the controlled, non-abusive way that I chose to do it. I was building a security up in my life in other ways by making these sacrifices. I didn't abuse my body in other ways.
Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to...
Yeah, but like, what security in life would you have if you're dying at 30 and 40? If the last 20 years of your life you're in pain and suffering, what security do you need? What pension are you working for? It's not worth it. You're working while you are achieving things. You achieve the things and you cannot even enjoy those things.